So continuing in the laws of meat and dairy, especially when it comes to flavor that goes from the meat to the cheese or from cheese to meat. So the rabbis explain that even if in a place where the milk was mixed with meat in a prohibited way, meaning that it was hot or it was moist, and to give an example of prohibited way, a drop of milk that fell into a hot meat, a hot stew, and a drop of milk fell into that pot. Now we said basar cham, meat that is hot. What hot means? So the rabbis gave us a rule, an idea to understand what is hot, what is considered hot according to the rabbis. If I stick my finger into your tea right now,
you burn your finger,
and no, and if my hand is repulsed by it, meaning I cannot leave it in. If I can't leave it in, that means it's hot. If I can leave it in, then it's not hot. That's what I mean. Not burn, but it causes you to recoil, to jump. Okay. So that's what hot means. They in general, it's about 43 Celsius. I think 43 Celsius, probably 110, 100 maybe.
It's considered hot.
Like
Yeah.
today's weather.
No, it's not considered. Not
Yeah. 43 Celsius.
Yeah, even Celsius. Not
Yeah.
hot.
The rabbi said that this is a heat that would cause your finger to
43.
coil. Yeah, 43 Celsius.
109.4.
109.4.
Water boils at 100. So
It's 109. He checked. It's 109.
what?
43 Celsius is 109 Fahrenheit.
Right.
I understand.
So about that temperature, you
You've been
can't
outside,
feel
100,
comfortable
you-
taking a
Right.
bath
You burn?
or
You're not getting burned.
shower. It becomes very uncomfortable.
Right. The mikvah is usually at 100.
Right.
If you look at
I did.
But if it would be 10 degrees higher, it might not be.
No, it's been up to like 103.
Yeah. But that's what they do. They put it always at
It
100.
shouldn't be so hot.
But so this is the idea of being hot. Now, yes, if the meat has, we said, what was the scenario? That you have a drop of milk that fell into a pot of meat, and the meat was hot. So if the meat has 60 times more, let's say it has 70 drops, 65 drops of meat, of sauce, more than that drop,
It nullifies.
yeah, what is nullified? The flavor of the milk is nullified in the flavor of the meat. So you're going to eat the meat and you're not going to taste milk. And if it's nullified, it's permissible to eat the meat. But if we don't have 60 times more meat than the milk, everything is prohibited. Say, okay, I'm going to take it out because the way it was mixed in a prohibited way. If it was mixed in a permissible way, meaning it was cold, not that it's permissible, but it was cold and dry, then you can work with it. But if it was mixed into a hot pot, then the only way to work with it, if it's being nullified by 60, but if you don't have 60, what are you going to do? Meaning, we're giving an example of a drop, but you can have a half a cup of milk that fell into a pot of cholent. So now it becomes a question, do I have 60 times, I have 30 cups, or I have 60 cups in this pot? But what we need to know is that if you don't have 60 times, it's prohibited. Okay?
Prohibited for everything. Just throw it away. Can't give it to the dog.
No,
can't-
nothing, because then it's a
Can
no.
Can you modify the formula? Let's say you have more meat in another pot and add it to make the ratios.
No, because no, I tell you why.
Jewish people always
It's a good question. It's a good question, but the thing is, the moment that it comes into contact, it already being, at that very second, if you don't have the 60 times more, it becomes prohibited. So it can't make it kosher. It's done already. In Halacha, there is something called tato agova. What is tato agova? Usually the bottom one dominates what is in the bottom dominates the top. So the meat is in the bottom, hot. Milk comes, it nullifies it. But if there's a tremendous amount of milk, don't have 60 times more, then I'm stuck with the meat.
So I have just a quick question about here we have a solid piece of food, which is a mass, as opposed to liquid. So you measure liquid as opposed to the liquid, the sauce, or vis-a-vis the meat?
No, volume, the volume of the meat, and compare.
Negligible compared to a piece of.
Yeah, but do I have 60 times? But we gave an example of a drop. But like I said, if it's half a cup of milk,
Yeah.
and I have a pot of cholent, is it nullified or not? Do I have 30 cups of milk? Do I have 30 cups of meat with the juice, with the potatoes, with everything in it? Do I have 60 times? Or I don't have. If I don't have it, I'm stuck with it. It's
So you have to measure the whole thing, not only.
now
the
he
meat,
says the opposite now.
because everything is.
Right, you have to
fleshy.
measure the
Everything's
quantity.
fleshy.
Yeah. No, it's not everything is fleshing, everything is prohibited. It becomes a
No,
sur.
I'm talking the measurement. The measurement, you count everything that is fleshy.
Right, everything that is in that pot.
Exactly.
It could be the sauce, it could be the
Exactly.
juice, everything.
Fleshy.
Now, if it's the other way around, when a piece of meat fell into a hot milk, okay, if the milk has 60 times more, then the milk has 60 times more than the meat, the flavor of the meat is being nullified, and you're allowed to drink the milk.
To eat the meat.
No.
No, to drink.
If it's the other way around, you had a pot of milk,
Yeah, and a piece of meat. For.
piece of meat full. If you have 60 times milk more than the meat,
You can drink the meat.
you can drink the milk, but you are obligated to find that piece and to remove it, to remove the piece of meat from the pot of milk.
Now let's say you
And to toss it, 1 second, because that this piece of meat, b'chatichas habaso, this piece of flesh, you don't have 60 times from the flavor of the milk that was absorbed. Why are we tossing the piece of meat? Because that piece of meat does not have 60 times more than the milk that was absorbed in it, or to nullify the flavor of milk that was absorbed into that piece of meat. I know that if piece of meat fell into a pot of milk and there's 60 times more milk than meat, fine, I throw out the meat. The question is, why do you throw out the meat? If it's nullified, meaning as if nothing happened. It says, no. The piece of meat that you took out absorbed milk, and it doesn't have, meaning the flavor is there.
Yeah.
So if you're going to eat that piece of meat, you're going to
the
taste milk, and that's an issue.
Question.
Now he ends off. He said, since there is many laws and many details, like I said before, you must ask a rabbi anytime there's this situation. What did you start saying?
No, I wanted to ask, what does Hashem wants us to do in this case? Let's say the ratios are okay to keep the food and eat it. If you have another option to eat, is it good to still give it away to a guy or something and try to eat the other thing, or just
Look, if you have 100% certainty that it's fine, meaning you ask the rabbi, he tells you, look, there's a big part of meat, there's no reason for concern, you took out the piece of cheese, or we took care of it, then there's an issue of bal tashchis. You're obligated not to destroy food.
No, I'm not saying destroy.
So-
to
so-
give it away after to a goy or someone. Just
Yeah, it's if you can afford it, it's better. Yeah.
It's better?
It says histalek min hasafek, meaning histalek min hasafek. It's we have an obligation to remove ourselves from doubt. In any situation that we have a doubt, if we can avoid the doubt, it's always better. Like for example, Chabad are very strict when it comes to the laws. In general, they're very strict about halacha, but when it comes to the laws of kashrus, and especially with chicken, meat, if there's a question about the chicken or the meat, and the rabbi gave a psak that it is kosher, they say it's fine, it's very good that it's kosher, but since there was a question, we're not interested in it. Just for the fact that there was a question. That's it. They don't want to. So it doesn't mean that it's not good. But they chose to be machmir, to
But
be
if
stringent.
you have the other
Question.
option,
Does it make a difference whether that piece of meat that fell into the milk, whether that piece of meat is hot or cold, and that the milk is cold or hot?
Of course, makes a big difference.
Big difference.
At the moment that it's hot,
It will absorb more.
it's
It might impart more flavor.
it's absorbing faster. It's giving flavor faster.
Yeah. So there's all kind of parameters.
Yeah.
that's why you even are allowed. Oh, I heard. I don't know. I've never done it, but people sometimes go to sushi places. They eat the cold fish and
Cold plate.
and cold plate. Well, no, but the disposable plate. But they get these pieces of nigiri.
What's
raw.
that? What's it? You're saying they go to non-kosher restaurant?
People.
Right. Now I know. Yeah, you were saying
Some people. They say that
because it's cold.
it's cold and
The problem with that is
the knives and stuff that they use.
right.
Yeah,
The whole facility, the cutting boards.
Right.
The guy
Right.
praying over the rice.
But and also, how do you know that they're actually serving you tuna? They might be serving you swordfish.
Right.
And the guy in the kitchen is not really. There's no mashgiach in the place, so they
Right.
don't really care.
Right.
So they told you tuna by mistake. They serve you swordfish. Big deal.
Right.
Somebody told me one time it was not religious at the time, and he ate ribs at someone's house, and he told them it was delicious. So can I go to the place where you bought it? So he went to the place, and he said, "I want ribs." So he looks at the sign and sees it's pork ribs. So he said, I don't want pork. He said, but that's the only thing we sell. We only sell.
But what happened
So
if
realize
it's
that
cold
he ate.
before?
So he realized that's what he ate instead.
No, we talked in Kisuya Adam last week about that concept of notification, and if the 1/60th fell in, like if a drop of milk falls in, like 1 drop per minute, and it keeps getting nullified in the meat sauce, eventually you end up with dairy sauce,
Right.
but the entire time it was getting nullified.
Right.
That's not at all.
No,
related to this.
but in what we learned in Gemara, a case where there was a continuous flow, but in this case it's either 1 drop or a certain amount, an ounce, 2 ounces that fell in one shot, and now you have to evaluate what to do. But in general, yeah, it could be nullified
If it was
immediately.
done
Yeah.
like that.
A quick story.